Imagine being locked in a psych facility because you think the FBI is after you. And everyone thinks you're crazy, but it turns out you're actually telling the truth. This is one of the most bizarre psych stories that I've lived to experience, where a woman came into our ward with delusions of grandeur, allegedly, after believing the FBI was after her and using multiple tactics in order to capture her. Now in psych, we are not strangers to people coming in with all types of claims that the higher ups or the powers that be are after them. Matter of fact, the most common ones are the FBI, the CIA, the police, the government, the Secret Service, aliens, angels, demons, like all of these things. So as you can imagine, when I'm doing her intake assessment, I'm listening to what she's saying and all of the events that led up to her being here. And it sounds like a thought salad, but here's how I get down. I don't prejudge people. I let them talk about what their experience is as it is, without like the faces of or like doubtful responses. Now, I don't confirm the things in which they're saying. I just allow the space for them to speak it comfortably. Because a lot of times, if you listen, you can catch patterns and maybe be able to circle around an event where the trauma has started and initiated this way of thinking, or where the central location is. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes. Just a little background on this woman. She ended up getting arrested because she lifted up a shotgun and shot it across the street into her neighbor's front door. It was a married couple who was not home, thank goodness, but she claimed that they were spies and that she would catch them spying on her and believe that they were after her. A very scary thing to think about because you can't choose your neighbors. This woman is disheveled, bug-eyed. You can clearly tell she has not been getting any sleep, which is a huge contributor to psychosis. She was very dehydrated, spit forming in the corners of her mouth, but she said she was relieved to be in the facility and maybe it will give her more time. That's what she kept referencing. Maybe I will get more time. But she was adamant about the fact that the FBI was after her. So I'm writing these things down. I'm going and sharing it with staff. And they're like, wow, ain't like it ain't nothing we ain't heard before. But that shotgun, that's crazy. She's with us for a few days. And then one day, the unthinkable, the unimaginable happens. We were a locked facility that was located on a separate floor than all the units. So you had to get through 2 doors before you get onto the psych ward. 2 men in suits and sunglasses, I kid you not, y'all, come up to the door, ring the bell. The nurses looking at each other, we looking at each other like, who could this be? Is this like religious services coming up to pray for patients? Or is there somebody that got visiting days wrong or visiting times wrong? Because it definitely wasn't visiting hours. We're all looking at the camera in bewilderment, and then the charge nurse goes out to greet the men at the door. All right, and so we're watching her talk to them, which feels like maybe, I don't know, maybe a minute and a half. And then she brings them in onto the unit. I'm like, oh, maybe these are the bigwigs, some CEOs that have come to do a random inspection of our hospital and, you know, how things are going. But as the charge nurse comes back to the nurses station, she's telling us that we need to pull the patient's chart that, you know, we had for a few days, the one with delusions of grandeur about the FBI being after her, right? And we need to wipe her stuff from the system. What? So we're like, what are you talking about? She said, I can't answer any of that right now. Please, guys, just follow this. And so we're all looking at each other like, what in the world? So we pull the chart and she goes to the room to grab the patient. She packs up her belongings, which wasn't much. And then she says, hey, you have to go. At this point, it's like the lady understands what's going on. And she has this catatonic look on her face. She looks defeated. And she's just like, I told you guys, I told you. And these 2 men escort her off of the unit with her chart. And to add even more context, the charge nurse didn't just do this under her own volition, because this could be anybody. You got to protect patients. I'm sure y'all got 1,000 questions, just as I did. She called the doctor, the psychiatrist, the social, like everybody was in on this. And these guys showed their badge. And where were they from? The FBI. Never in my days have I seen anything like this. And we were all spooked and freaked out, but we weren't allowed to know anything about what they were doing with her, why they were taking her in. And after bringing in everybody that is anybody in the hospital that could have something to say about this, all they could recognize is that these men had clearance to do exactly what they came to do. We weren't allowed to know what business they had with this woman. We weren't allowed to know the connection and anything like that. The best thing that we could leave with was that maybe it had something to do with her shooting that shotgun into her neighbor's door. But usually that will be a police matter. And the police brought her to the psych ward. I don't know, y'all. I've never had a situation like that ever happen to me in all my years that I worked in psych. What would you do in this situation? And how would that change the outlook on patient delusions that are reported to you? Would you give pause? Or would there be any pause to give? Because if you knew that it was true, could you do anything about it? Is there anything that could have been done? What do y'all think? Let me know. This is a crazy one.